But then our scholars have said another level of talking about the akhirah is the realization. It's not now just ilm and amal, it's ma'rifah. It's a realization that it is a reality. And it has within it, tied to it, reality of your own nature, because you're not just this physical body. And when the body dies, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a very graphic, description of a man passing away in this world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and when that soul reaches the throat, and it's about to come out, and all the people around him, and they're calling to the healers, who is there who can bring him back? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, on that day the return is to your Lord. Imagine for a second, that's a moment of your life. And when the end of time comes, the angel of death is here. What situation are you in? And what condition are you in? And your family is sitting around you, and this moment of death comes to you. Right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and the feet are put together. And this is a very graphic description, because when the soul leaves the body, for the early stages, the body's still warm and it's still soft. But after some time passes, the body starts to harden. And if any one of you have experienced somebody die in front of your eyes, you will have seen this. Immediately after, what did they do? They straighten out the legs and they put the hands, if it's here, they put it by the side, because if you don't do that right away, afterwards it's impossible. It's impossible to move the body, because this subtle body, this supple body that's able to move, that's alive, as soon as it dies, it becomes very hard. And it becomes stiff, right? Because that soul that animated it is no longer there. That soul that brought it to life and allowed it to move is no longer there. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing, and they put the feet together, and they tie the feet together, right? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَا صَدَّقَ وَلَا صَلَّى. This person who died is returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't pray, and he didn't give any charity. He was not a charitable person, and he was not somebody who devoted himself to worship. وَلَكِنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى. And he used to deny, and he used to exceed his limits. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing this horrible situation. And is asking you and me, do you want to be in the position of that person? أعوذ بالله من ذلك. We seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from that kind of ending. And so Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he used to teach the Sahaba to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a good ending. That, Ya Allah, when you take my soul, take it at a time when you are pleased with me. Ya Allah, when you take my soul, take it at a time when you are happy with me. Right? Because this moment is a culmination and is a summary of all your lifetime. Your entire life, all your choices have been leading up to the moment how you're going to die. And so naturally, the Prophet ﷺ said, what have you prepared for it? Because this is the ultimate meeting. When that time comes, you have to be prepared for that meeting. And the Prophet ﷺ, everything that he was teaching the Sahaba was to prepare them for that moment. That when the angel of death comes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes to the righteous people, the angel of death comes and says, نَحْنُ أَوْلِيَاؤُكُمْ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. We were your guardians. The angels are talking to them. We were your guardians in this world, and we were there watching over you. Come out to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was explaining how the soul runs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, flees to Allah. Because it's like a bird that was caged up, and as soon as the cage is opened, it flies out. And this soul, it leaves because it sees the reality of the hereafter. It sees the reality of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in its vastness, and it doesn't want to stay here anymore.